What's good everyone, it's your boy, your dig, 4 eyes, 2 G's here, and I'm sure if you clicked on this video, you remember this interview here. Although released in December of 2016, this was shot in early 2016 before the infamous ASAP Bari, Ian Connor and Theophilus London fight that led to this video being one of the last public examples that we have displaying the intimacy of Bari and Ian's relationship prior to it breaking down. Throughout the interview are mentions of how they're family, how they would die for each other and how they are brothers.
Together, you feel me? And we all sit at the table, we fight, we throw food at each other, we cook for each other, and it's just like that.
But only months after the video was originally shot, the dynamic of everyone's relationship in the video with each other would change, with the aforementioned fight taking place in June of 2016, shocking the internet and causing an uproar. And in this video, I wanted to take a look back and place the fight into context and discuss the events leading up to it and after.
Yeah, I'm on a UFO. Last night was at the show, and I'm getting lot of dough. Poured one for the gang, you already know. Yeah, last night I was at the show. Then I went to the studio, found myself little groupio. Man, no feelings though.
So before we delve into the actual event taking place, it's important to place a few things into context and explain a few integral people to the story. Immediately involved in the fight are Ian Connor, ASAP Bari and Theophilus London. Theophilus London is someone who got his start in music way back in the early 2010s and is someone who got around Kanye West and Virgil Abloh very early on in his career. As early as 2010 he would meet Kanye and later on Virgil. Their relationships were creative ones and involved him working with them on their projects and vice versa. Take for example his Vibes project in 2014. This was executive produced by Kanye whilst Virgil creative directed it. Around these times he was running a lot with both of them. Secondly is Ian Connor. Ian Connor is someone who got his start as an influencer back in the Tumblr days and built his name up initially through modeling and transitioning himself to becoming an internet personality. But it really wasn't until he fell in with the mob that his name really started to make waves. The ASAP cosign helped grow his name expeditiously, and furthermore was his placement in Yeezy Season 3, which was a big look as well. There is so much more to Ian's story, such as him styling Wiz and him styling Kylie, but that's just a very quick synopsis. Ian during this era was also around Kanye and Virgil a lot, and was actually a creative consultant for Kanye West at one point in time. And Bari also shared a similar relationship with Kanye and Virgil and was around them a lot at this time. In fact, the event that the fight took place at was actually a pop-up for a collaboration between B-Lone and Off-White. A quick backstory on Bari, he was actually a founding member of ASAP, and to people who followed the mob closely very early on around 2011 and 2012, he was someone who was seen as a creative figure within the group from a fashion and style sense. He worked on clothes for Rocky, and he was even featured on Complex's 25 Under 25 Leaders of Style in 2012. But compared to how big he was in 2016 or even now, he just wasn't that well known early on. It wasn't really until he took the B-Lone brand much more seriously and kind of became the face of B-Lone that his celebrity was really bolstered in the public eye. Another integral relationship to break down in this fight is Ian and Bari. Ian on countless occasions has given his props to Bari. These are direct quotes from an interview he did in 2015. Quote, "I looked up to ASAP Bari to where I just understood what he was about. I chased behind Bari like a fucking dog. I looked up to Bari so much until we were inseparable." And this relationship of Ian and Bari is super important to establish early on. Okay, so hopefully that kind of sets the picture. We have three people, Theophilus London, Ian Connor and ASAP Bari, who all at that time were hanging around Virgil, hanging around Kanye, and swimming in the same fashion and music circles. Okay, moving on to the fight, the key thing that set off the fight was Ian Connor's allegations. Essentially, during this time period, there was a lot of hate directed towards Ian due to the fact that multiple girls had come out and accused him of rape and other sexual assault related acts. Now, those allegations are a whole other story to get into, and for the sake of this video, it's not important to delve into the specifics of those allegations, but it's just important to know that there was a huge, massive media crusade against Ian, and even years after, we still see people trying to get him cancelled. And especially around 2016, there was such a vocal group of proponents against Ian that not only called him out, but called out the people around him, like your Kanye's, like your Rockies, for still associating themselves with Ian despite the allegations. So behind the scenes, there was a lot of tensions amongst the youth culture, fashion and music scenes all about these allegations. As I said, not everybody messed with Ian, and particularly at this time, there was a lot of hate directed towards him and people were definitely taking sides, so not everybody liked him. Fast forward to June 2016, whilst at a V-Lone and Off-White pop-up at a Colette's boutique in Paris, everybody was there. Virgil, Rocky, Bari, Ian, London, and this is where the incident happened. However, firstly we need to backtrack to a few hours before that event, and this is where the first initiation of any public issues between them was, where London on Twitter outed Ian Connor and called him a rapist and said that he was going to beat him up. So obviously, fast forward to the pop-up event in the store, tensions would have been high, as everybody in the store would have known about the tweets and would have been wondering what was going to happen between London and Ian when they saw each other. The first video you can see on screen right here is Theophilus London kind of pressing Ian. Although these words weren't said in the video, people did report that London was pressing Ian over the allegations and London was calling him a rapist. In the video, you can hear London say to Ian that he will slap the ish out of him if Ian touches him.
Where's your husher? Where's your husher? Where's your husher? What's up, yeah, husher?
So we can definitely say that there was an argument or some confrontation of sorts between the two at this time, but nothing happened immediately in this video. After this, people split the two up, but not for long. The next video we have is where after the two were separated, Ian, who clearly felt away towards London after he just pressed him, lunges towards London and throws a punch at him. As soon as this happens, of course, commotion breaks out. You can see Rocky in the video in the middle trying to stop it going further, and also take note of Bari there as well. Bari is in orange. Now, after all of this, Ian was basically forced out the store and onto the street, which we can see in this clip right here. And then this is where Bari, who as I said is in orange, runs up on him, swings on him, and the two kind of square up before it breaks off and nothing develops further. Now, that's essentially the fight there, but what happened from here was a whole lot of social media tweeting and unraveling that in hindsight shows that there was a lot more to the fight than meets the eye. And guys, before we continue with the story of Ian and Bari's fight, I want to give a shout out from my Instagram. Big shout outs goes to Spam Cartier, one of my favorite meme pages on Instagram. Yo, he's got some hilarious posts. Make sure to check it out if you haven't. Also, man, make sure to follow your boy on Instagram at @YouDig. Go drop me a follow, support the boy. You guys know the go. Also, I'm running by my Cardi, Uzi, and Travis merch tees. You can see them on the screen right now. Link in the description to cop if you're interested. Also, I'm pumping out the content for y'all. A lot more content on the way. Show your support, like the video, comment, subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications. Your support is much appreciated, but let's continue with this story. A lot of the tweets have since been deleted, but the media pieces are still up, so the screenshots will have to do. Firstly is Theophilus London towards Ian. On top of these tweets, which I showed you earlier, which were the precursor to the fight, after the fight, London continued, claiming that he fed and helped Ian out after Ian came home from juvenile prison, and he also said that Kanye doesn't want him around anymore, as well as a couple other things. ASAP Bari also joined in, alleging that Ian had AIDS, herpes, and other STDs that he had given to girls, and also said that he was going to fade Ian when he saw him. And Ian responded to both of them. Towards Bari, he reinstated his love for him despite everything that went on, and still said that he devoted his whole life for him, but Bari started to show signs of jealousy. And towards London, he said that London went broke in 2015, started doing heroin, and was a child molester, and he had proof. Now, all of those tweets right there need to be taken with a grain of salt, and still to this day, we are unsure about the truth of practically any of those very, very serious allegations from any of them. I just want to make that clear. But what it does show is how Bari and London clearly had strong feelings towards Ian even prior to the fight, and same with Ian towards them. And although the fight was a climax of these issues, largely revolving around Ian Connor's sexual assault allegations, in my opinion, now again, just my opinion, there was already tension between these relationships, because you guys got to remember, as I said, they were all hanging around Virgil, they were all hanging around Kanye, and they were all competing and coming up together. As Ian said himself, according to him, he surpassed a lot of people, and Bari was starting to get jealous. And side note, people have alleged that Bari and Ian did have an issue in the past when both of them shared the same Instagram photo, except with one another cropped out in it months before the fight even happened. Although we never found out if these were actual disses or the two had an actual problem or not at this time. But regardless of that, I seriously think that jealousy or their egos or them just having a very competitive relationship with one another also played a role in this fight, as well as the allegations, which I said played a huge role as well. And this will cause a falling out and the breaking down of Ian's relationship with Bari, and led to other actions in the near future. After this, Ian famously called out VLONE for printing some of their shirts on Gildan, which created the ongoing internet joke V Gildan, which people did call him a hypocrite for, considering that Ian used to wear VLONE before the fight with Bari. However, for as big as this fight and this moment was in 2016, there hasn't really been too much of a public follow-up since that moment that was close to the level of that fight. Regardless of what they said on Twitter, we never saw either of them fight each other again, publicly at least, and we never really saw them go at each other in any way. I would imagine that a lot of it got worked out behind the scenes to the point that they were at least amicable. However, as I said, Ian literally worshipped Bari on the come up, and they were tight for several years. But after this, the two's relationship would never be the same as it once was, and they wouldn't associate anymore. This event would also create many rumors and stories of beef between the ASAP mob and Ian Connor, with people alleging that Ian got kicked out of the mob, but really over time it's evident that sure, Ian and Bari's relationship went south and was never the same, but he was still able to remain cool with a lot of the people involved. He has hung out with Rocky countless times, and Rocky has even defended Ian publicly. He was literally just on live with ASAP Nas today, and even after the fight, he was still cool with Virgil and Kanye. He modeled for Yeezy again in 2018 and was at Virgil's LV shows. And it's important to place into context, people at this time were looking at Ian as if he was done. People calling him a rapist, saying that he was kicked out of the mob, that Rocky hated him, that Kanye hated him, etc, etc. And no matter what your opinion of Ian is, you do kind of have to give him some props. He had a lot of hate directed at him, and he had a lot going against him at this time. But after the fight, he really put his head down and went down his own path and succeeded. And it's worth mentioning that Ian still gives Bari his props as his main inspiration, although they aren't close anymore, with him giving Bari a lot of praise in last year's interview with Cohen, Frost and ASAP Rocky.
Pay your respects, bro. A lot of people know about me and Bari's situation, but no matter, I would never take that. Ian Connor would not be Ian Connor if it wasn't for a Jabari Shelton, bro.
So it's clear that the beef or the problem between the two just isn't as serious as it once was. And it's interesting to look back at moments like the Bari, Ian and Cardi interview in hindsight. I still remember when the fight broke out and it had the whole internet going crazy. And I just wonder how different things would all be for Bari, Ian, V-Lone, etc. if the two had remained together and the fight never broke out. But I guess we'll never know. But yeah, that pretty much sums up the story right there, the events leading up to it, what happened and kind of the aftermath. If you guys made it this far in the video, I want you guys to comment your dig down below. Much appreciated for watching the whole thing. Shout out to everyone on screen right now who watched my previous long video all the way through and commented. Big ups to you guys. Also, if you haven't liked the video, if you're new, subscribe as well, turn on notifications, and there are more videos of mine on screen right now. Make sure to check them out if you haven't.